Ever get that feeling of being completely stuck on a tough choice? Well, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to build a really practical blueprint for making better, more strategic decisions, whether that's at work or in your own life. Just take a second and think about that. You know the one I'm talking about. Maybe it was a huge career move, a big financial decision, or just a personal crossroads. We all have these moments where the future looks, well, foggy. The stakes feel incredibly high, and that fear of making the wrong call can be just paralyzing. So let's get into it. What really makes some decisions so much harder than others? I mean, what's the difference between picking what to have for dinner and a choice that keeps you up at night? It really comes down to a few key ingredients. And here they are. It's this perfect storm of difficulty. First, you've got uncertainty. You just don't know how it's going to play out. Then there's complexity. So many moving parts, so many things to think about. And finally, those high-risk consequences. The feeling that if you mess this up, it's really going to matter. That combination right there, that's what stops us in our tracks.
But here's the good news, and this is so important. You might not be able to control the outcome, but you can absolutely control your process. Having a solid step-by-step method is your best weapon for cutting through all that noise and seriously upping your odds of making a fantastic choice.
Okay, so if a good process is the secret sauce, then what does that process actually look like? Well, lucky for us, there's a really great 7-step blueprint we can lean on.
And this is it, the whole roadmap. You can see how it just flows, right? The first 2 steps are all about setting the stage, really understanding what you're dealing with and getting in the right headspace. Then 3 and 4, that's the creative part, coming up with all the options, not just the obvious ones, and really digging into them. And finally, steps 5 through 7 are about pulling the trigger, making your choice, stress testing it, and then actually doing it. It takes you all the way from confusion to confident action. Now, having a great plan is one thing, but even the best blueprint can crack if the foundation is shaky. While you're going through this process, you have to be on the lookout for these hidden mental traps, cognitive biases, that can quietly wreck your judgment. Let's walk through some of the biggest culprits. First up, the anchoring trap. This is when our brain just latches onto the very first piece of information it gets. Like when you're shopping for a car, and that first price you see becomes the benchmark for everything else. Even if that number was pulled out of thin air, it anchors all your thinking from that point on. Oh, and then there's the status quo trap. This is that powerful gravitational pull towards what's familiar. It's our bias for just keeping things the way they are. It feels safer to stick with what you know, not because it's actually the best choice, but just because it's comfortable. Honestly, this is the enemy of any real progress. The famous sunk cost trap. This is the one that convinces us to keep throwing good money or time or effort after bad. We do it because we've already invested so much and we're desperate to justify that initial decision instead of making the right call for the future. Sound familiar? This sentence is practically the theme song for the sunk cost trap. But you have to remember, it's an emotional argument, not a logical one. That time or money, it's gone. The only thing that matters now is what's the smartest move going forward. This next one is sneaky because it feels so good. It's our natural tendency to seek out information that confirms what we already think is true. And, well, we tend to ignore anything that challenges our viewpoint. It's like building our own little echo chamber, and it creates massive blind spots. Now, it's really easy to mix those last 2 up, but there's a key difference. Think of it this way. The sunk cost trap is all about justifying a past action, a mistake you already made. The confirming evidence trap is about protecting a current belief that you hold right now.
The framing trap is fascinating. It's all about how the way a choice is presented can totally change your decision. For example, studies show people will take way bigger risks to avoid a loss than they will to achieve a gain, even when the math is exactly the same. It proves that how you ask the question often determines the answer.
And last but not least, we have the estimating and forecasting trap. This is where we get a little too confident in our own gut feelings. We start making big predictions based on our personal experience. And in the process, we completely ignore the hard data that might be staring us right in the face. Okay, so we've got the blueprint, and now we know about the traps hiding in the shadows. How do we put all of this together to make sure our next big decision is a really solid one? Let's tie it all together. At the end of the day, it really comes down to this single idea. You need 2 things. The 7-step process is your constructive tool. It's what builds a great decision. But your awareness of these traps, that's your defensive shield. It's what protects that decision from your own built-in biases. You need both.
So what you're walking away with is a powerful two-part toolkit. You have a constructive method to follow step by step, and you have a defensive checklist to make sure you're not falling into any of these common traps. Together, they give you the clarity and confidence to tackle pretty much any complex choice.
So I'll just leave you with this to think on. Which one of these hidden traps do you think you fall into the most? Because just being aware of your own tendencies, your own blind spots, that's the first and honestly the most powerful step you can take toward making your next great decision.